All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
So we're all familiar with those iconic images, firefighters battling blazes, rushing into burning buildings. But have you ever stopped to think about what it actually takes to be a firefighter?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not just about, brute strength and courage. There's a whole lot of strategy involved.
So much strategy.
It's like a carefully choreographed dance.
A high-stakes chess game with lives on the line.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, the intricate world of firefighting procedures.
Oh, I love it.
We've got an awesome excerpt here breaking down the entire process from the second that alarm bells rings to the moment they're back at the station ready for the next call.
You know what always amazes me is how much happens even before the firefighters arrive on scene.
Oh yeah, for sure, that initial 911 call.
It's like the first domino falling in a chain reaction. Those dispatchers, they're the unsung heroes gathering all that vital information. Not just where the fire is, but what kind of fire it is. Are there any hazards, like downed power lines or hazardous materials? Is anyone trapped inside every single detail matters?
Yeah, it shapes the entire response.
Oh, absolutely. And they're relaying all that info to the fire station, which then determines, which specific crew needs to be dispatched, what special equipment they're going to need.
So even while those sirens are blaring,
oh, yeah,
firefighters are doing way more than just grabbing their gear and hopping on the truck.
Right, they're not just suiting up.
They're getting into the right headspace.
Mentally preparing.
I was reading about that they're actually strategizing already based on what the dispatchers are telling them.
Absolutely. They're running through potential scenarios in their heads, thinking about challenges they might encounter.
Yeah.
Like if it's a high-rise building, how are we going to get water up to the 10th floor, things like that.
And it's not just about brute strength, like we said.
Right.
It's about thinking ahead, anticipating problems before they even get there.
That's what makes the difference.
So, okay, the truck pulls up, lights flashing, sirens blaring.
Right.
I always kind of assumed they just charged right in.
Yeah, I thought so too.
But there's this crucial step that happens first.
Size up.
Size up, right?
It's basically a rapid risk assessment.
Oh, interesting.
They're taking in the whole scene in a matter of seconds. Where's the fire exactly? How big is it? Are there any immediate hazards, like I mentioned, downed power lines? Anything like that.
Wow.
And they're also looking at the building itself. Is it wood frame? Is it concrete? Are there any weird architectural features that might pose a challenge?
It's like a doctor, doing a quick diagnosis before deciding on the treatment plan.
That's a perfect analogy.
And just like a doctor leads a medical team, there's the incident commander.
The IC.
The IC takes charge on the fire ground.
Right. Establishing a clear chain of command, assigning tasks to different teams. You got your engine company, your truck company, your rescue company, all working together.
It's crucial in such a chaotic environment to have that kind of structure.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone needs to know their role and who's in charge.
The part that always gets to me is the search and rescue.
Oh, yeah.
The thought of entering a burning building.
Not knowing what you're going to find.
Yeah, the courage that takes is just incredible. What kind of training prepares them for that?
It's incredibly demanding, both physically and mentally. They do drills in these simulated environments where they practice searching systematically, learning to stay oriented in zero visibility because, the smoke can be so thick you can't see your hand in front of your face.
Yeah.
And communication is key in those situations, using hand signals and clear, concise language so everyone knows what's going on.
Wow, it sounds intense.
It is, and they have to know their own limits too, when to call for backup or when to retreat if conditions get too dangerous.
It's a delicate balance.
Absolutely.
So while that search and rescue is happening, other teams are working to attack the fire itself.
Right.
I know they use hoses, but are there different kinds?
Oh, yeah, different nozzles.
Wait.
Different techniques.
Tell me more.
So you've got your classic straight stream, which is brute force, maximum penetration power to really blast the fire. But then you've also got fog nozzles, which create a finer mist.
Oh, interesting.
That's good for cooling down superheated areas and even for protecting the firefighters themselves, creating a water curtain.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. And then there's ventilation, which is super important.
I always thought that was just for clearing out the smoke.
It is for that, but it's also about manipulating the fire itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was reading about how they can actually use ventilation to direct the fire's path and intensity.
Wow.
They're essentially controlling the flow of air and oxygen, which are fuel for the fire.
That's amazing.
It's all about strategy.
But it's not just about tackling the flames themselves, right? They have to be mindful of what's around the fire, too.
Right, protecting exposures.
Exposures.
So that means safeguarding nearby structures, anything that could be at risk of catching fire.
Okay.
So they might spray water on adjacent buildings to cool them down, or they might create fire breaks, removing any flammable material to stop the fire from spreading.
So it's like stopping that chain reaction before it gets out of control.
Exactly. Containment is key.
Wow. So once the main flames are knocked down,
They're not done yet.
there's still a lot
Oh, yeah. They move into the overhaul phase,
overhaul.
which is all about meticulous searching. They're like detectives at a crime scene.
Oh, I like that analogy.
They're looking for any hidden embers or hot spots that could reignite the fire. It's really detail-oriented work, crawling around in the debris, using thermal imaging cameras to make sure everything's cold.
Wow.
And while they're doing that, they're also thinking about salvage, trying to protect any belongings that can be saved from water damage or smoke damage.
It's like a whole other layer of the job.
It is.
And then this is when the fire investigators come in, right? To figure out what caused the fire in the first place.
Yeah, their work is super important.
It's not just about, understanding this particular incident.
Right.
It's about preventing future fires.
Exactly. They're looking for patterns, analyzing the evidence, trying to piece together the story of how the fire started so they can make recommendations, for fire safety codes or public education campaigns.
So it's really a multifaceted profession.
Oh, absolutely.
More than just putting out flames.
So much more.
Okay, so the fire is out. The scene is secure. What happens next?
Well, it's back to the station.
Back to the station.
But the work's not over yet.
Oh, really? What else is there to do?
Well, they have to clean and repack all their equipment, make sure everything's in working order, ready for the next call.
Right.
There's paperwork reports to be filed.
Yeah.
And then, perhaps most importantly, there's a debriefing session where the whole team gets together, talks about what went well, what could have been improved, any lessons learned.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's all about constant improvement.
So they're always learning.
Always.
Always preparing for that next call.
That's the life of a firefighter.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And we should remember, this is just a general overview.
Right.
Procedures can change a lot depending on the type of fire we're talking about.
Right, of course.
Like a wildfire.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole different beast.
Completely different. A structure fire versus a wildfire. Different techniques, different strategies.
But those core principles remain the same.
Absolutely. Life safety, incident stabilization, and property conservation.
So learning about all this, it really gives you a new appreciation for the complexities of firefighting.
For sure.
It's not just about, spraying water on flames.
Right.
It's a carefully orchestrated dance.
Of strategy, skill, bravery.
And it makes you think about fire safety in our own lives. What steps can we take to prevent fires from happening in the first place?
That's the key takeaway.
Something for everyone to think about.
For sure.
All right. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
See you then.